Chelsea fans, welcome back to Talking Chelsea. Welcome back to your Chelsea news. Chelsea close in on signing a new director of scouting and recruitment. Azpilicueta gives his thoughts and opinions on this current Chelsea side. Josh Acheampong was hot property in this summer transfer window. Chelsea may re-sign a player we sold to Strasbourg. And finally, Chelsea close in on a new front of shirt sponsor. Now, of course, I begin my own thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported, but more importantly, I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content. We're on the road to 10k subscribers by the end of 2025. You can also use the hype button, which is a new YouTube feature which helps push this video out to a bigger audience. Kicking things off, Ismail Mahmoud from Win All Sports has reported what Cesar Azpilicueta thinks of this current Chelsea side. He says, I see a very young team that play good football and they are building that strength. Step by step, let's see where they finish the season. They are back in the Champions League, which is something that Chelsea, we are used to playing in that competition. And from there, let's see how the group grows. But yeah, I still have a lot of friends and I keep in touch with a lot of people in the club. So I always watch the games as possible I can, and I check the scores and wish them the best. Firstly, we love hearing from Dave. Dave is a legend. Honestly, one of the only players in my lifetime I've seen being able to play so many positions and play them all very effectively. Left back, centre back, right back. Win so many trophies. I think at one point he'd won every single trophy possible while being Chelsea captain or something along those lines. Unbelievable legend for Chelsea. One of those players we got very, very cheap. I think we won for like £7 million. The return on investment on that is insane. But Dave as a player and as a character, he loves the club. And yeah, it's just really nice for him to kind of say those things about Chelsea. It's really, really nice. And I like that he still has contacts within the club and he still checks in, watches the games and checks the scores and wishes us the best. I think what he's saying is spot on. We do have a very young team. We do play good football and we are building that strength. And the Nottingham Forest game yesterday was a prime example of things going right. We showed a lot of resilience in that first half because things were not going our way. We were playing very, very poorly. But immediately in the second half, after those changes happened, we saw a very exciting Chelsea team and we started playing free-flowing attacking football and started battering Forest all around the park. And that's the exciting thing about it. Of course, we're going to have inconsistencies. I think yesterday we fielded one of our youngest, if not the youngest, Premier League side in terms of average age. And we come away with a 3-0 win. Obviously, we get the red card at the end of the game by Gusto being silly. But at the same time, it was just a tale of two halves, and we saw sort of the worst and the best of Chelsea in that 90 minutes. And I feel like that's what it's going to be like from here on out until these players really grow and develop. But at the same time, it's really nice to see these players develop in real time. Seeing Josh Acheampong get his first senior Chelsea goal was amazing to see. He also had a very, very good game. You also have the likes of Reece James, obviously a Cobham graduate, on his 200th appearance, scoring that third and final goal, and also just playing very, very well. And we just know how good he is. So I really agree with what Azpilicueta is saying, and I think he's spot on. We are in the Champions League. It's something that he's used to doing. He's lifted the Champions League with Chelsea. So we are moving in the right direction, and it's very easy to get clouded in our judgment and be very reactionary when things don't go our way. But sometimes you do need to take a step back and realise, like, we are still currently on this journey of development. And I speak to a lot of you guys in the comments, and some people say, if we keep focusing on the future, you're going to, distract yourself from the now. And I totally hear that. And we also know that this project and this model is all about future. And I do agree with that to an extent, because we do need to work on the now as well as the future. Because, again, at the end of the season, we've got a load of players coming in that we've already pre-signed or got other agreements to come in the summer. But you also got to work on the players right now, like Josh Acheampong developing and getting a lot more opportunities. Mark Guiu staying at the club. He played very, very well yesterday, directly involved with the first two goals. He was having a natural number 9 on the pitch makes such a world of difference for the players like João Pedro, because he was creating a lot of space for Pedro to operate in them half spaces, and allowing him to be more creative and find those passes so we could actually do damage to the opposition. Whereas in the first half, we had no outlet really. But without getting distracted and talk about other things, I just really agree with what Dave's saying here. I really love that, the fact that he's still a fan. I like the fact that not just with Azpilicueta, with a lot of Chelsea players or ex-Chelsea players, they still support the club a long time after they leave the club. And I really like that. I know that probably is pretty standard for a lot of big teams, right? But I don't know, it just means a lot coming from Chelsea, ex-Chelsea players to Chelsea fans. We love Dave, he loves us. It's just beautiful. So, yeah, I'd like to know your thoughts and opinions. Do you agree with Azpilicueta? Do you still feel like Chelsea need to improve? Or are you seeing more and more of this squad that makes you go, do you know what? We are going to see some inconsistencies, but we're seeing enough now to get results that I'm happy to kind of strap in and enjoy the ride. Because for me, I'm starting to get to that point now where I'm like, I'm a very patient person, very patient fan, and I understand things are going to take time, and I do get frustrated when things don't go our way. We perform at a very subpar level of what we've seen these players do before. But at the same time, I'm quite happy for these players to develop. I'm happy for Acheampong to go get a load of minutes and get his opportunities, scoring goals and even just being solid defensively. I'm happy to have a rotation of players if it means that, we can develop to be an absolute world beater of a team in the next few seasons. But I also am very cautious that right now we still need to be competing. We need to be competing in the league. We need to be competing in the Champions League, competing in the domestic cups. So I'm just very curious to know your thoughts, down below regarding sort of our project of growth and development, and also right now. Whereabouts do you sit? Fabrizio Romano has reported that Chelsea were approached by many important clubs this summer for Josh Acheampong. For example, Borussia Dortmund and also English clubs. They didn't sign a centre-back this summer because they also wanted to give some space and trust to Josh, so Chelsea's strategy was correct. Now, one thing I will say, I agree with that in terms of, giving players opportunities. I just mentioned that. I like the fact that we are giving players opportunities and they're stepping up and taking those opportunities. Do I think that Acheampong right now is Virgil van Dijk? Of course not. But he's definitely playing like he's someone who can go on and surpass Van Dijk in many, many years. And we just know he's an incredible centre-back. So let's use him as an example, right? I'm more than happy for him to get the opportunities. We want to see him playing more games because every time he does get opportunity, he seizes it. And yesterday, he was amazing. And also, a few lackluster passes, but that's going to happen over a 90. But overall, very, very solid defensively. Got his first Chelsea goal. Absolute limbs, right? So in that sense, yes, Chelsea's strategy was right. However, when things don't go our way, it is very glaringly obvious that there is a centre-back issue, because there is a lack of experience or a lack of quality. Now, it's up to you what one you decide that is, whether it's a mixture of both or mainly one and not the other. Because you can't put the pressure on Josh Acheampong to say, we need you to perform like John Terry tomorrow, because that's just not going to happen. But at the same time, you kind of have to take that into consideration when things don't go our way. Can't be saying, these centre-backs are horrendous, they're awful, we need new ones. But in the same breath go, I'm so happy with Josh, he's a really good player, I'm glad he's getting the opportunity. It's kind of like 6 of one, half a dozen the other. And it's not to be devil's advocate or try and throw shade at people. It's just you have to think about it more in terms of like the actual situation and the long-term vision of it. Because yes, Chelsea didn't sign a centre-back this summer. A lot of us, myself included, have said that we need someone with a bit of experience, especially with Colwell's injury coming out of the blue and him not being available for the rest of the season, and physically seeing how important he is to Enzo Maresca's system and this team and this back line of the line-breaking passes, him being on the ball, the leadership qualities that he shows, which I don't think we all realised was as detrimental as we first thought. But without him, we go, we really miss him, right? And he is our best centre back in my opinion. Currently, obviously, he's injured, so regardless of that, Chelsea didn't go out and get a centre back. So we all went, we've got numbers, but are they of enough quality? But then you've got like players like Josh, you've got Chalobah, you've got Tosin, you've got Hato we've just brought in who can play on that left hand side. You've got Badiashile, you've got Fofana. I understand we've got some injury-prone centre-backs, and they should have question marks on them. Like Benoit Badiashile comes in, plays amazing for 2 games, now he's out until December. Wesley Fofana needs a good run of games. He then gets concussion from no fault of his own, really. And he's now get back on the mend. He's now fit, but he has to get to a certain standard that Maresca can trust him again, put him back into that centre-back line, and then hopefully he can stay fit, because since we've signed him, he's been so on and off like a light switch. It is unbelievable. So I understand that after the back of result yesterday, we go, yeah, Chelsea was spot on. This is unbelievable. But if we'd have lost 2-0, 2-1, 1-0, we'd have been blaming the fact that we don't have the quality or the experience of centre-back. So it's such a double-edged sword when it comes to this scenario. Chelsea are going to look like they're correct when things go right, but when it goes wrong, they're going to look like the enemy because they've not addressed that issue. So I just thought this was quite interesting to get your thoughts and opinions on. I'm also very happy that Chelsea denied absolutely anything in terms of Josh Acheampong like going anywhere. Any offers that came in, they was like no. And I really rate that, because Acheampong is a special talent. He's going right to the very, very top. And I honestly think that this season is going to be his massive breakout season. We saw glimpses last season of what he can do in the Conference League. He played in that 6th role, plays as a centre-back, plays as a right-back. He's unbelievable, and he seizes his opportunity. And now this year, it's like, right, you're going to get a lot of Premier League minutes, Champions League minutes, and can you kick on from what you kind of the foundations that you laid last season? And I think he will. I think he's going to have a very, very bright future, and I'm glad that Chelsea see it that way. I'm glad that Chelsea want to keep him at Chelsea as well to develop even more. But yeah, I'm happy for Josh to get his opportunities. It's the same scenario with someone like Jamie Gittins, who, yes, we spent a lot of money on, but he's also young and experienced in terms of the English Premier League, and we need to give him time to adapt. There are a lot of players, Andre Santos, obviously he's adapting to the Premier League. He didn't have the best of games yesterday. I'm not going to throw him under the bus. I still think he did okay, but not to the levels we're expecting of him. But again, he's still adapting, and we've seen how good he can be, which is why it's so frustrating. Lavia had a pretty poor game in that first half yesterday, but we know how good he is. He's also very injury prone. So there's a lot of caveats to this in terms of saying, Chelsea's strategy was right to do this, because when things go right, it looks right. But when it goes wrong, it looks horribly wrong. So I'm just curious to kind of know your thoughts and opinions on your position on the whole strategy. Are you on board with it? Do you think it does make sense? Are you happy to take the losses with the wins and then, bask in the glory of the wins and also, just accept the defeats? Or do you feel like Chelsea is still a bit off the mark and they still need that bit of experience within the squad to really take us to the next level? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. TBR Football have reported that Chelsea might trigger a buyback clause to re-sign Belgian midfielder Diego Morier from sister club Strasbourg. Chelsea sold him to Strasbourg for 1.7 million in August 2024, having only ever given the winger 45 minutes of football. The exact amount of this clause has not been disclosed. Now, I find this very interesting, and I think this is one of the quote-unquote benefits of having a sister club, is you can make these sort of transfers back and forward. I don't know the legalities of it. I don't understand the finance side of it, because essentially Blue Coat own both. They have to balance the books, etc. I kind of get that, but I don't understand the ins and outs, right? I don't think we all do, because we're not accountants. However, this is all kind of resurfaced because Morier has been tipped to be a very, very good kid, like wonder kid coming through, and he's going to go on and really do massive things. They obviously played against PSG the other day in a 3-3 draw, and it looked like Strasbourg kind of threw that lead away, if I'm being honest, and it looked like PSG weren't really in the game too much. They were kind of giving that entry back into it. But Diego played fantastically well. I think he got a goal and assist in that game, and it really highlighted his talents and what he can go on and do and how he has developed just in this last season being at Strasbourg. So of course it's like, we really like what you're doing over there. Chelsea may try and trigger a buyback clause, but it's very interesting that the sort of clause hasn't been disclosed, and I wasn't even aware that we sold him for 1.7 million. It seems like a very, very low fee for a player of his age and talent. So maybe it's something that Chelsea had done where he goes to Strasbourg, and then essentially once he grows and develops, we then bring him back. Kind of feel for the Strasbourg fans in this sense as well, because I feel like they can't ever get attached to their squad. They can't get attached to a player because they know that if they really excel in that squad, Chelsea are just going to take them for themselves, and then Strasbourg are like, great, okay, we're going to get someone else to come and develop, and it's just going to be that rinse and repeat cycle for them. So I kind of feel for them in that sense. But for us Chelsea fans, it's great, right? Because we've basically got a team in a top division, or the highest of divisions in France, where we can go, right, you go develop there and do your thing, and then once you're good enough and we think that you're ready to be plucked from that, we can then bring you across to Chelsea's first team, which I know a lot of clubs do without the sister club model or whatever it may be. But it just seems to work out a lot easier because it's all connected. So, I mean, look, I want to keep an eye on Diego. I think he is a very good player. There was a lot of disgruntled fans when we sold him, because it was like, well, hang on, he's one for the future. We've been tipped that he's going to be amazing, and we've only given him 45 minutes of football. Why? We want to see more from him. But he's now getting the opportunity at Strasbourg, and he's showcasing how good he is. Like I said, in this PSG game, which was the other night, he come away and everyone was like, what a player. He's really going to kick on. So again, it might be a development season, a breakout season for Diego over at Strasbourg, and Chelsea may look at the end of the summer and go, is there room for you back in our squad? We might trigger a buyback, because you got to think you've got Kendry Paez, Penders, Coenda, and a couple others that are coming back off of loan at the end of the season as well. So you just got to kind of juggle like who's going out the door, because it's Chelsea. There's always going to be outgoings as well as incomings. So if they are going out, if the loanies are coming in, who's going out? And then can we fit someone like Diego back in the squad as well? I don't know. I honestly, it's like an ever-ending puzzle, and we have all the pieces, but we're just constantly rearranging them. So it'd be very interesting to see what happens with Diego, and I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions. Should Chelsea just let him be at Strasbourg, let him go develop, not even try and have this sort of cloud of thought over him of, I could go back to Chelsea? Or do we just kind of go, once you're good enough, we pluck him back and we try and fit him into our squad? Where does he fit? Where does he play? Who do we get rid of to accommodate someone like that? Because I feel like even if he does have a really good development season, he's still very young, you then bring him to the Premier League, there's still that learning curve, there's still that development curve of playing in the Premier League. So it's not like an instant drop them in and they're amazing, right? So I'll be very interested to know your thoughts. David Ornstein has reported breaking news. Chelsea are in talks to appoint former Liverpool Director of Scouting and Recruitment, David Fallows, in a senior sporting leadership role. He goes on to say his responsibilities would be expected to include scouting, player pathways and football development. Fallows left Liverpool in October 2024. And Sam Wallace from The Telegraph has reported that Fallows has been approached by Eghbali and his investors. Fallows, 65, was credited as being fundamental to Liverpool's success. He goes on to say that Dave Fallows, the celebrated former Liverpool recruitment expert, is set to take up a similar senior role at Chelsea. He has been approached by Eghbali and his fellow investors to join a well-resourced recruitment team at Stamford Bridge. He is expected to have a range of duties including scouting and data, player development pathways and loans, and football operations. The latter is expected to include recruitment of coaches and staff as well as players. Now, like I just said, Chelsea feels like a massive jigsaw that's forever moving parts and trying to fit things in the right place. This seems like another one of those where we're trying to be Thanos and collect the Infinity Stones into the Infinity Gauntlet. This could be a huge move. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm an expert in all of the higher up senior stuff, right? But what Chelsea are looking to do and what they have been doing is doing everything based off data. They look at someone like Dave Fallows, who left in October of 2024, who they see as fundamental to Liverpool's success and how dominant they've been in the last, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 years, nearly a decade, really, under Klopp and now under Slot, and how their recruitment has been and how they've managed to generate revenue and how they've been in a position to win Champions Leagues and win Premier Leagues and also, like the domestic cups, and then go spend £500 million in one summer transfer window because of how FSG has worked their finances. It is really impressive. Like, regardless of the fact that it's Liverpool, it's just really impressive how they've done that. So when Chelsea look at that and we have all these other, well-resourced recruitment team, as they say, and then you add someone like Dave Fallows in there who's going to be more of a senior role and go, right, you've done it at Liverpool, come do it here. This is the sort of resources we have. What would you do? It's interesting that it goes to scouting and data, player development pathways and loans, and football operations. This could be another key figure that comes in, which can either enhance the vision of the project with the sporting directors or slightly tweak it to make more sense for Chelsea. So rather than going to buy a Garnacho or a Jamie Gittins, where the directors have very led that and it's not really a Maresca style signing, having Dave Fallows go, right, okay, actually it makes more sense to go for this profile of player for the team, but also for the future, or this player you might not have been scouting, or this data suggests this, and I've seen these patterns before, and this is what makes more sense for the club long term. So it'd be very interesting to see how that all works out and if he actually accepts the role, right? Because essentially Eghbali has approached with investors and is basically selling the dream to Dave Fallows. He might. I don't know in terms of the senior and higher up level positions if they even care that much about the football that's being played. Are they fans of the clubs that they play for? There was a director of Newcastle that bounced around like 3 or 4 clubs in like 6 months. Looks like it's just a big paycheck for a lot of them, right? So he might say, I don't want to go work for Chelsea because I worked for Liverpool. And no. But at the same time, Peter Kenyon back in the day was high up at Manchester United, then come across to Chelsea, and it was kind of like, well, hang on a minute, you're going from a rival to a rival, etc. Like I said, the higher up you go, I think the less they care about the football on the pitch, and in terms of the tribalism of supporting clubs. Maybe they do. I don't know. I don't want to put words in the guy's mouth. But it'll be very interesting to see what happens with this because, again, like I said, it seems like this be a never-ending puzzle where Chelsea are trying to put all the pieces together and we're constantly rearranging what that puzzle's meant to look like. So it'll be interesting to see if someone like Dave comes in with previous experience at the highest of heights, like winning European Cups and done very, very well at Liverpool by the looks of it. If he's the main guy behind all the recruitment, the pathways will be very, very detrimental for Chelsea with a lot of the youth that we are recruiting and loaning out to come back and the players that we have to deal with now as well as what's going on in the future. Pathways are going to be a huge, huge thing because when I go back to last season and I think about Josh Acheampong signing his either a contract extension or his first long contract with Chelsea, the one thing that kept coming up was pathway. He was like, I don't want my pathway blocked because you've got Gusto and you've got Reece James. I'm never going to play right back. And it was someone like Maresca saying, I really like you as a player and you will get opportunities and you will get minutes. And he showed that because he played him in the Conference League and he played him in other cup competitions and wherever it was needed because we had injuries, etc. But Josh can also play as a centre-back. So as a player, he was like pathways, and it was very, very detrimental to him signing that contract, and now he's playing more minutes, and he's developing even more, and hopefully, touch wood, he stays at Chelsea for a long, long time, and becomes a top player, which I think he will. So it'd be very interesting to see how he deals with that, and if he actually comes to Chelsea and what the deal's going to be in terms of what he's going to look after. Will it keep everyone on the same path? Will he restructure things? Will he redirect things a little bit? Does it mean we're going to have a bit more like sensible transfers coming from the director's side of things? Who knows? But I'd like to know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding Dave Fallows, the former recruitment expert at Liverpool, set to come to Chelsea for a senior role. What are your thoughts and opinions? Lou Class has reported that Chelsea have approached a number of global brands about sponsorship, including Red Bull, GmbH, Oracle, Lenovo and Qatar Airways, as mentioned earlier. In recent months, the club has also been in talks with other companies from the technology, entertainment and airline sectors. However, All for Football Talks reported breaking news saying, "We have learned that Chelsea are leaning towards striking a deal for the front of shirt sponsorship with Red Bull and Oracle, which was first called by Simon Phillips in his exclusive reports." This is huge. Chelsea look to finally be making headway in terms of securing a front of shirt sponsorship by leaning towards Oracle and Red Bull Racing, or Red Bull in general. I know that they're kind of the same brand but split into two, so it might be Oracle on the shirt, it might just be Red Bull on the shirt. More than likely Red Bull. I think there might be a conflict of interest if we're promoting F1 on a football shirt, but I don't really know the ins and outs of that. This is awesome. I would love Chelsea to have a Red Bull as a sponsor. I think it looks clean on the clubs that they have. I know Red Bull obviously have their own clubs as well, but I like the Red Bull logo. It's iconic. I think it will look really well in the contrast to the blue shirts. Whether or not they do like a silver outline or they do the full colour sponsor, I feel like Chelsea and Red Bull make sense in terms of the money side of things. They're very big commercially. Red Bull are everywhere. I absolutely love this. And again, I know Simon Phillips, I really like his reports. He's normally on the money or calls things before they happen. He's very, very reliable in that sense. There must be something to this, that Chelsea are leaning towards that, which means that they are more than likely happy to be giving Chelsea around that 60 to 65 million a year that we have been constantly asking for a number of seasons now. And now we are the world champions, and now we have had a bit of success in the last couple of seasons. Last season specifically. This is much needed. We have the World Champions badge for the next 4 years, or 3.5 if you include this season as well. Having Red Bull slapped on it would be huge for them. They have pits of money. They are always doing some sort of commercial stuff in terms of like mountain biking, extreme sports, F1, all sorts. They've got their own football clubs. I think it makes sense. And I think it would look unreal, if I'm being honest. So this is huge, huge news, because I've said this many, many times. And I know a lot of fans are getting bored of the whole, we haven't got a sponsor. It's embarrassing. We can't even secure a sponsor as the world champions. And I hear it. And Chelsea have been very, very patient and very picky in terms of vetting who they're either being approached by or approaching in terms of the sponsorship. We also heard recently, which we reacted to, that a lot of the sponsors were laughing and walking out of the room when we were asking what we were asking for, and some of them were concerned over the 74 charges that are kind of looming around Chelsea. Now, if I'm being honest, I think those 74 charges will more than likely end with just a big fine that Chelsea will be happy to pay, because we cooperated with the Premier League. We actually brought it to their attention and basically said, look, these ain't right. Can you look into it, and we'll deal with it accordingly. So yes, I get it from a brand's perspective. You're going to be like, I don't want our brand being dragged through the mud, etc. But I don't think that's going to be a major obstacle for a lot of these companies that are actually serious about sponsoring Chelsea. I don't know why my brain went flat for a second there. But when it comes to having the money and having a sponsor that wants to work with Chelsea, I like the fact that Red Bull's there. Qatar Airways looks cool on the kit. I think the Red Bull, there's a few mock-ups knocking around, looks really cool on the kit. And it'll be very interesting to see if Chelsea do lean this way or they do go to the airlines, because obviously there's a couple of airlines that have been linked for such a long time. The main issue that I keep bringing up is just lost revenue for Chelsea. It's lost revenue, which means we have to be more active in the transfer markets consistently to try and boost the revenue as much as possible in terms of outgoings. Now, we had a record outgoings in the last summer window. It was a silly amount of money, really, when you think about it, and we still made purchases. We can't keep doing that. There's only so many windows that you can do that, right? Because once you cull out all the players you don't want, you're left with the ones that you do want. Yes, there will still be players coming in and out. That's how Chelsea move under this new ownership. But we are missing out on around, even if it was lower than that, even if it was 40 or 50 million a year, that's a huge chunk of money we're just not getting at all. So if you do that over a long period of time, the strain on needing a sponsor becomes more and more, and it becomes more detrimental to Chelsea to kind of have that extra financial boost. So having someone like Oracle Red Bull not only looks good, it's a massive name. I think it will look cool on the shirt. They obviously have pots of money. It just gives Chelsea extra revenue each season. And if they're willing to sign a long-term deal, and it is around that 60-65 million that we're asking for, this is massive, massive news for Chelsea, because it's an extra 60 to 65 million a year for however many years they sign it for, whether it's 5, 10 years, whatever it may be. I remember when Chelsea first secured Samsung, it was like a 10-year deal, and it was huge at the time. And it worked so well. It was a clean sponsor. We won a lot around, in that time, that era of time as well. I know we had Yokohama Tires. That was pretty decent. It was like a lot of money for a short period of time. So look, Chelsea are not new to this. Chelsea are also relatively new to not having a sponsor for so long. I really like the clean shirts without the sponsor. I'm gonna be brutally honest with you, but at the same time, I understand that the club need to generate that revenue somewhere. So as much as it looks good, if we do go Red Bull and it looks clean, I'll be all for it. So I'd like to know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding this latest news. With Chelsea leaning towards working with Oracle and Red Bull Racing, or maybe it's just Red Bull and Oracle. I don't know how they're going to split it. Obviously, this on the screen is the Oracle Red Bull Racing logo. Whether or not it's the whole thing or just Red Bull or just Oracle, who knows? But I'd like to know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding this. Are you happy with this type of company to kind of sponsor Chelsea for long term? Do you think that Chelsea can get this over the line? How long do you think the sponsor will be? Do you think, your overall thoughts? Do you think it looked good on the shirt? Would you have it in full colour? Would you have it as just an outline? Very curious to know your thoughts. And that's the latest Chelsea news. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported down below in the comment section. I love having a conversation with you guys. And if you have watched this video all the way to the end, firstly, you're a real one, and I mean that. You're a real one. But secondly, there'll be a thumbnail appears on the screen. So if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, make sure you click that thumbnail because you'll enjoy that video too.